We've been very lucky because Broadwell's been covered by the Victoria County History for Gloucestershire, and it has a specific section about education and schools in the parish. And
I see.
What we've discovered is quite unexpected, because we know that Broadwell was quite a small parish, but despite this, it had a school before the beginning of the 19th century. It had a Sunday school, and that would have been very closely linked to the church, as Sunday schools are even today. And so the main emphasis for the teaching would have been religious instruction, but probably as part of that they would have done some basic reading and writing and maybe a little bit of arithmetic.
Yes.
And I think that the Victoria County History says that there were something like 45 children who attended this Sunday school in the 1830s.
Yes.
And that's quite a high number when you think that the overall population for Broadwell was probably only a few hundred.
Yes, I see.
So that suggests that there was quite a tradition of education in the parish, and that was carried through into the later 19th century and then into the 20th century. So what we're going to look at now is the school building that we're actually interested in, the school that was there in the late 19th and 20th century.
What was the name of the school?
It was the Church of England, Broadwell Church of England School.
Okay.
So the very title tells you that it was closely connected to the church.
Yes.
Still. So that means that the rector would have taken a very hands-on approach to the management of the school and would have visited very regularly. And we'll probably find that when we look at some of the records of the school itself later on.
Okay, so now that we've found out a little bit more from the Victoria History of Gloucestershire and their website, we can move across. And I believe you've been very fortunate.
Very, very lucky indeed.
What have you found there for us?
Well, we found the actual conveyance of the school site.
Did you actually find that document here in the archives?
It's held here. It's been deposited with us as part of the Broadwell Parish Records collection, which again emphasises the connection between the church and the school.
Yes.
And it is a very lucky survival. The only sad thing is that the plan which we have only shows the land. I'd rather hoped it would show the buildings.
I see. Should we have a look then?
Yep.
Have a look at this document. How old is this document then that we're going to look at right now?
This was written in 1851.
Oh, I see. Gosh, and it's beautiful. It would have been done with an inkwell and ink and...
All done by hand.
All by hand,
yes.
yeah.
And
Okay.
You've got the little bit of decoration up at the top.
Yes, the fancy bit. Okay.
Now, the first thing you see is the plan. That's what immediately catches your eye. And it is just a plan of the land which was given.
Yes, okay.
And one of the interesting things about this is the word here, glebe.
Oh, yes.
Now, the glebe land goes way back into the mists of time, and it was land that was dedicated to the church. So it's where the vicar or the rector would grow his own crops to support himself.
I see, yes.
So it could be that originally this piece had actually been part of the glebe, but in 1851 he wouldn't have needed it to grow his own food, so he was giving it to the church, to the school.
Yes, and that's where it was actually built.
That's right. Now, another curious thing, because we know already that the school was actually built on Kennels Lane.
Okay, yes.
But if you look here, it's got the old name, Wetless Lane.
Yes. Oh,
So
before.
Before, so maybe it was before the kennels were built.
Yes, wetless. So wetless indicates that perhaps it wasn't a damp area.
It could be that it was very, very free draining.
Yes.
And it might be that if you have a look in Broadwell, that will be confirmed by the
actual land
and
itself.
what's growing there.
Yes, yeah, I understand. Yes, okay, wonderful. Thank you, Vicky. And what are we going to do next?
Well, I think we might just have a little look at some of the text.
Oh, yes.
Because it does say what the land is being given for.
Oh, right, okay.
And one of the things that I thought was quite interesting, down here, it says that it's going to be given for children and adults.
I see.
Here, look, it says education of children and adults.
Yes.
Or children only, of the labouring, manufacturing and other poorer classes.
I see.
So there are two things that are interesting in that. The one is that it's really designed for the lower class children.
Okay, yes.
And that suggests that the wealthier children would perhaps go away to school, or they would go to some kind of private school,
I see.
possibly in Stowe. But the thing that I found really interesting is that it mentions adults, because certainly in towns there's a tradition of education being continued once the children had left school. Children would have left school when they were 14. But certainly in the town schools, the teachers would provide continuation classes where they would do work to reinforce and improve their literacy and numeracy skills.
Yes.
And sometimes these were so well organised that you actually have separate registers and records for them.
Yeah.
And they took not only the older children, but also adults who'd missed out on their education the first time round.
Excellent. So this is late 1800s now.
That's right, and early 20th
And
century.
early 20th,
yes.
yeah.
So I think this is probably a little bit ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it might all be linked into the philanthropy that there obviously was in Broadwell.
Yes. So you were lucky if you were born and bred in
That's just
Broadwell.
it, yes.
Okay.
Yes.